Hi, this is John Barnes, and you're listening to Kop On.
Hello, everybody. Hello. Welcome to Kop On Podcast, you beautifully crispy cauliflower with cheese. And I hope the cheese in your life is just as tangy or mellow or robust as you would like it to be. And whoever you are, wherever you are, if you're joining us live on YouTube right now, or if you're listening back on YouTube, or watching back on YouTube, or if you're listening on a bike or in a car, or in a sidecar, or in a helicopter, or on a jet plane, or on a jet ski, or on jet from gladiators, welcome to your sweet and beautiful self to this episode of Kop On. FSG, we're here to talk about FSG. Well, they were called NESV at the time, weren't they? And they took over from Hicks and Gillette. Tom Hicks and George, the worst a man can get, Gillette, back in the day when we were almost in administration. I've got a photo for the YouTube viewers. They can see John Henry shaking hands with Martin Broughton, Sir Martin Broughton, I believe, if you're into that kind of nonsense. Sir Martin Broughton, who was the guy who brokered the deal on behalf of the Royal Bank of Scotland because those Texan crooks were kept defaulting on the loans or something. I never quite understood why we were in such peril. The finer details, but there you go. So in steps John Henry with his great big cigar in mouth, the bazillionaire soybean guru. And of course, back in those days, they were dark days. They were darker than the blackest fleck of paint on a deeply depressed artist's furrowed brow. They were darker than the contents of my great aunt's black pudding, and darker indeed than a crow's butthole, because our manager was Roy Hodgson. And I'm delighted to be joined as we start our look back, our retrospective into all of FSG's signings. And we're going to start. I'm delighted to be joined by Nigel. Welcome back, Nigel. We're going to start with Roy Hodgson because this is before FSG or NESV took over, the summer of 2010, where Roy Hodgson, with this famous photo of him standing with his left arm on Danny Wilson's left shoulder and his right arm on Joe Cole's right shoulder, and in the middle, smiling as if he's not sure why he's there, is Jovanovic, a player who I can't remember on the pitch. I can't remember him doing anything interesting. I'll have to look up after. Nigel, we've got lots to talk about today, but starting when FSG took over and Roy Hodgson was in charge, do you remember how you felt back then when you look at these signings?
Tough times, that's all I can say. He came in at the darkest period, football-wise, in the club's history. We all know what the really dark periods are, but in football-wise, this was our nadir, so to speak. It was a desperate time. He shouldn't have got that job. He was used to dealing with teams that were down near the bottom of the table. And it's, my God, look at that. Oh,
because it wasn't just those three. It was Joe Cole, Milan Jovanovic, Danny Wilson, along with Christian Paulson, Brad Jones,
Paul
Joe Shelby.
Paul
Paul Konchesky's actually not on my list for some reason. I'm not quite sure, but yeah, that was Hodgson signing, wasn't it? That's strange.
I think so.
Yeah, I think you're right. Okay, I'll have to double check that as well. But and John Joe Shelby from Charlton Athletic, but we did sign.
He was one of the bright spots.
Raheem Sterling was one of the bright spots, but I mean, I was never a John Joe fan, I'm afraid.
Yeah,
he was
wasn't as bad as those ones.
Pardon?
He wasn't as bad as those three.
I mean, yeah, the three on the screen, our audio listeners won't know, but it's the ones I alluded to. Yes, Joe Cole, Milan Jovanovic, and Danny Wilson. Joe Cole. I mean, I looked at his record, his actual stats, because I'm in a bit of a masochistic mood, I suppose. And he made his debut on the 5th of August 2010, that famous debut where he got sent off. So his total games for Liverpool, 42. Okay, he actually played for us 42 times, which is more than I thought. How many goals and how many assists would you guess in 42 matches when he was the creative fulcrum of the team, supposed to light everything up a la Florian Wirtz?
Yeah. 5 goals if he was lucky.
And maybe 5 goals exactly. Well done.
I haven't checked this, that's the guess.
No, great.
I remember him scoring a last-minute winner against Bolton. That was about it. And maybe 3 assists.
4 assists. Very good.
Not a bad guess. Good. I know he didn't do much.
9 goal involvements in 42 matches. It's embarrassing, really.
He was injured. We got done by Chelsea that time.
Of course we did. And he was dishonest. He should have, not signed for us.
For the money.
Absolutely.
I don't think Danny Wilson ever played for the first team. He kept getting injured and ended up going back to Rangers.
That's right. But there you go. But that season, it's a depressing one because Manchester United won the league, and it was the time where they, I think they went ahead of us because hang on, I get confused. They've won 20 and we've won 20. Is that right?
Yes.
As it stands now, yes. So this was their 19th title where they just got ahead of us on 18. And we had been on 18 for 22 years.
Really?
21 years, yeah. And it was the 2010-11 season, that Roy Hodgson season, where they finally overtook us and had their 19th title. So
they've only won 1 title since then.
Yeah.
Really?
It was, exactly. Yeah. It was actually the 12-13 season was their last title, I believe. This is from I used AI to help me research this episode, so there might be some error, but do let me know if there is. Let me just try and find something here. But as I'm looking, we can talk about Manchester United that season. Sorry to talk about the enemy, but I suppose looking back is actually quite interesting, really, I think, because they brought in the summer before this season, the Hodgson season, in order to win the league. They brought into their team to compare Chris Smalling, Chicharito Hernandez, and Bebe, among other players, notable signings for Manchester United, and they won the league that year. I've actually got their squad in 2010-11 in front of me. They had Van der Sar in goal, and then their strength in depth in defence was pretty amazing. Check out this list. They got Patrice Evra, Rio Ferdinand, Wes Brown, Johnny Evans, Chris Smalling, Nemanja Vidic, Fabio and Raphael, the twins, John O'Shea, and a few kids. But that's a lot of really good defenders looking back, isn't it?
Yeah, they were solid.
And then in midfield they had Owen Hargreaves, Anderson, Ryan Giggs, Tom Cleverley. Just a quick check. What position are the referees in that list? Yes, exactly. Yeah, they're the star strikers, aren't they? But
yeah.
So Anderson, Ryan Giggs, Tom Cleverley, Michael Carrick, Darren Fletcher, Antonio Valencia, Gabriel Ubertan, remember him?
Yes. Robbie Brady, I didn't know he was there.
Robbie Brady, yeah, I think he was just a kid back then, but yeah, absolutely. Paul Pogba also was a kid. Danny Drinkwater.
Just gone to Monaco, I think.
Yeah, all of that in midfield. And then up front, they had their number 7 was Michael Owen. Berbatov, Rooney, Chicharito, as I said, Nani, Danny Welbeck. Oh, and Paul Scholes still played for them. Federico Macheda, who was going to absolutely, who had already ruined our hearts a couple of seasons previously when we were good. And then, Mane Biram Diouf, if you remember him, and Bebe, who was a total flop, the Cape Verde international. So that was the Man United squad that won the league, and it just goes to show how far behind we were. Because we were rubbish back then. We were absolutely rubbish when FSG took over. But
we were on the verge of administration.
Mm-hmm.
We were within a few days of going basically getting a points deduction because we were in such a poor state. They had run us into the ground, and when FSG took over, when Martin Broughton did that deal, I remember watching it that morning that they got the takeover, and just a sigh of relief because we were on the verge of being relegated in administration.
Absolutely. But I think, part of that was like, I don't know, I actually found a report when NESV took over, NESV as they were back then, and Hicks and Gillette's lawyer was, put out an absolutely furious statement about how it's bad for the long-term future of Liverpool because, they're going to be dragged through the courts and this decision will not stand. So they were obviously very pissed off to lose their cash cow, those crooks. So, I remember the sense of relief. I mean, that's what you remember as well, I imagine.
Definitely.
Yeah. But there you go. Let's move on to the next season and the next transfer windows. The next season going on was the 11-12 season. I'll put some details on the list on the screen for our YouTube viewers. The 11-12 season, it was won by Manchester City. Okay, Liverpool brought in. Now this is the first. Oh, sorry, we didn't talk about FSG's first signings because, of course, Roy Hodgson lost his job in January. Kenny Dalglish took over.
I was on the golf course.
Okay, you remember where you were?
I remember exactly where I was. I was on a golf course and I was on a green, and I looked back and one of my friends was on the tee box at the far end, the tee box I had previously come from, and he was going like this, waving his hands above his head and kind of gesticulating wildly. And I kind of ran halfway back and he ran a little bit up to me and he kind of shouted over to me. He said, "Hodgson is gone, Kenny is back."
Oh, amazing.
I felt great, I have to say, at the time.
Absolutely, yeah. It was instant, wasn't it? The whole fan base, everybody was back, right behind the king. So I mean, it's still one of the decisions that I question. I don't know. I'm in two minds about the sacking of Kenny Dalglish. On one hand, I think he'd done an absolutely brilliant job. Brilliant job in very difficult circumstances. But then on the other hand, it's a Liverpool fan's perspective. And if I take off that hat, or at least put it to one side, or turn the cap to face the back like I'm 12 years old and I think I'm cool, in terms of reputation around Europe for young players, they didn't know who Kenny Dalglish was. And in terms of attracting, new talent to the club, that was the big problem back then.
But he wasn't sacked straight away. Like, he wasn't sacked till 2013.
Exactly. After winning a cup and getting to another cup final, I thought to turn it around from where we were, it was god awful.
I was at the second leg of the semi-final against Manchester City in the League Cup, and I was up at the very back row of the Anfield Road end at the time.
Amazing.
And we won. And Craig Bellamy tortured Michael Richards the same night, absolutely tortured him. And we won. And Kenny cried on the sideline, if you remember. And then we won. We won the final on penalties against Cardiff.
It was January the 25th. I remember it very well because that's my birthday. And my ex-girlfriend at the time, who was not into football at all, she was like, "What do you want to do?" And I was like, I had to just say, "Well, you're not going to like it, but it's my birthday." We saw that. It was great. I do remember that. So going back to the winter of 2011 then, so that's when Kenny came back that January, and we signed, of course we did, Luis Suarez and Andy Carroll.
On deadline day. Exactly.
And a friend of mine, David, who might be listening to this, he once quipped, what a strike force Lionel Messi and Andy Carroll would have been in the calendar year of 2012, because they got 95 goals between them. But Lionel Messi got 92 of them. Because Andy Carroll, it just wasn't.
Scored 2 goals against Manchester City on his debut, 2 really nice goals as well.
I mean, exactly. But it's since come out that he didn't even want to come to Liverpool. He was sort of forced out. Newcastle told him that he was leaving, and it broke his heart. And this is one reason why, going back to why Kenny was sacked, this is clearly a Kenny Dalglish signing as opposed to an FSG one, right?
Yeah.
I mean, what are your thoughts on Andy Carroll? What do you remember?
Like, you'd be hoping that any kind of a new big signing, big name striker does well, or a big money striker does well. And he started off so well. For a big guy, he was he seemed to have a decent skill set and stuff like that, but things just didn't work. You know, we didn't really play to his strengths. We were more trying to get people into the box, kind of flooding into the box and supporting Suarez and stuff like that. And Andy Carroll needed ball knocked up to him and knocked into him, and it just didn't really work. You watch some of the goals he did score, and he's going in and he's throwing himself around. Now, he had a decent left foot when he wanted to, but then he got a few injuries as well, and the style just didn't suit him. It just wasn't a good fit style-wise. Like, you remember those 2 goals he scored against Manchester City?
I don't remember. Go on.
The first one was a cross into the box. First one was a cross into the box, and he headed it, got round above the top of the defender, and it was a brilliant header right into the corner. And the second one was a low shot from the edge of the box that he came running onto and hit it with his left foot into the bottom corner. I think Joe Hart even seen it.
Yeah, I do remember now. Yeah, absolutely brilliant. I mean, he was sort of, I don't know, he was a heavy drinker. He was like an old school player as well. He was sort of like a Geordie Duncan Ferguson, and playing to his strengths is not really what Liverpool should be doing anyway, I think. And it's like, I don't know, he had that game against us under Hodgson, actually, where he sort of tore us apart with a long shot that, you know, and he got another goal, I think, 2 goals against us.
Yeah, but the same thing happened with Christian Benteke later on. So we'll come to that. But I mean, it's the same. We seem to keep repeating this fault. The same thing happened slightly, I think, with Takumi Minamino. And the same thing also happened with who else scored against us and we signed him. Nunes.
Yes, that's very true.
You know, it's a repetitive thing.
Yeah, very good point. But moving on to the good news, I mean, he divides opinion. He always will. But the other guy we signed, Luis Suarez. I mean, if you can see on YouTube, Andy Carroll looking a bit lost in this photo that I found from Google Images, and that sort of sums up Andy Carroll's career. That he's running, but he's not quite sure where he's running to or why. And if I share a photo of Luis Suarez, El Pistolero, in the Liverpool shirt, it's just him celebrating a goal. Because, I mean, you can say what you like about. There's a whole can of worms to open about racism, about biting, about all kinds of things that he did that were just crazy, really crazy, as well as idiotic. And yeah, I don't know. But when I think of him, I choose to focus on the incredibly long list of wonderful things. And you know, one of the reasons I love football are players such as Luis Suarez, where it's just before kickoff, you see their name on the team sheet, and you just can't wait to watch them. You know, I've had that with Bobby Firmino. I had it with a lot of the current Liverpool players and players under Klopp, where you just can't wait to watch the team. And they just do things that are just, wow. They're artists, they're creators. They do things that you cannot imagine, beyond the imagination. And they take the club and the emotions of all the fans along with them, and they inspire millions of people. And off the pitch, a weirdo. On the pitch, an absolute, like one of my favourite ever players, purely on the pitch, especially 13-14. He was extremely unlucky under Kenny to keep hitting the bar and the post. It's not like Nunez, where he sort of shanks it high and wide. Luis Suarez, for me, I don't know. I could talk about him for hours, but I want you to talk about him. Talk to me about El Pistolero.
You remember the 4 goals he scored against Norwich?
Which time? Didn't he score 3 times against them? Or he scored 3 hat-tricks and 1 4?
Yeah, 3 hat-tricks and 1 4. But one of the ones he got in the 4, the ball kind of dropped down to the edge of the box. Everyone was going about the long range one he hit over the top of the goalkeeper. Mm-hmm. But he hit this other one, and the ball was coming about that high off the ground, and he hit it with almost no backlift, and it looked like it was ping into the bottom corner. Well,
that was the one where the touch. Sorry, that was the one where the touch before. He didn't. It was a bouncing ball, wasn't it? And he didn't hit it over the defender. He sort of hit it.
He hit it around him.
Shimmied it around the defender, and then hit the hard volley.
I saw him playing. I saw Liverpool playing Spurs in a game at Anfield, and they were doing the warm up, and I was level with the edge of the 6-yard box at the Anfield Road end. Or sorry, not the Kop end. I was at the far side, and he did the same shot, warming up, and I was level with it, and it was just, oh my God. It was mind blowing. It was just. No, I will always think. I'll always say the sweetest strike I've ever seen on a football is Thiago's goal against Porto. That is probably
the one
the
where,
sweet, kissed the grass.
You're not sure if it kissed. Yeah, not sure if it kissed the grass or not. Yeah, they hovered into the bottom corner.
I think that's the sweetest strike I've ever seen on a football. But that one of Suarez is not far off. It was incredible.
Well, the one where he hit the bar against Arsenal.
Yeah, you're talking Thiago. You're talking Luis Suarez. You're talking Socrates for Brazil back in the 70s and in the 80s. One of the most elegant players I've ever seen. And he just had all these players had presence. That's the big thing about them. They all had this incredible presence about them. So that, you're kind of drawn to their aura, so to speak. And he definitely had aura. There is no doubt.
And we signed him off the back of a World Cup. I mean, I imagine he was a transfer committee signing as well, because the data would have definitely.
That's the one he handed the ball on the line for Uruguay.
Yeah, that exactly. Asamoah Gyan missed the penalty, and it was an unforgettable World Cup game. If you don't know, for any reason, if you've never seen Uruguay versus Ghana from back in 2010. The summer of 2010, then just go and watch it. The highlights of Luis Suarez, absolutely unbelievable. But I loved him in that tournament as well. He was like a dream signing, and then to actually get him over the line, I couldn't believe it. I was just, I was just overjoyed that we got this guy who looked amazing in the World Cup, and lo and behold, he was amazing. But yeah, I mean, joining Liverpool, he said one of my favourite Luis Suarez stories. Before we move on, is because he came over from Amsterdam, of course, and he didn't know much about British culture. He joined Liverpool because he thought Liverpool were always playing in Europe. He obviously didn't look at our current squad at the time and looked at how badly we were doing, which was great. Apparently his dad came over, and there was somebody who was speaking on the Anfield rap, the excellent Anfield rap, who was talking about how she was having a conversation with Luis Suarez and his dad after leaving Liverpool, and they were like, so what do you miss about Liverpool? And they said, well, they've got this shop there where you go in Liverpool or just outside Liverpool, and it's a massive shop, and you go in and they've got everything there. They've got food and they've got everything you might need. They've got garden furniture, and they've got incredible selection of drinks and everything you might need. And it turns out it was Tesco's, which, if you don't know, is just like a regular supermarket chain. So I don't know. I mean, that explains something of the weirdness of Luis Suarez, I think. But let's go back to the list and this run through. The following season, so Liverpool finished whatever we finished. We recovered, I think, from 16th position was our lowest under Hodgson to 8th under Kenny Dalglish, which was a marvellous effort. And the following season, the 2011-12 season, which is, of course, the Aguero season. Aguero, which is one of the worst bits of commentary but then that's Martin Tyler. I've got a big bias against him. I'm sorry if you're listening, Martin Tyler, but
we all have.
So the 2011-12 season was won by Manchester City, and their summer signings going into that season, check this out for a list: Gaël Clichy, who was a very highly rated French left back from Arsenal, Stefan Savic from Partizan Belgrade.
Was he? I think.
I believe so. He never made it at City, but he was highly rated at the time. They signed Aguero that season from Atletico Madrid. They signed Samir Nasri from Arsenal and Owen Hargreaves.
Never that high on Samir Nasri.
Pardon?
I was never really that high on Samir Nasri.
He
always
was
a little lightweight to me.
Yeah. He was overrated. I met him once. Actually, watched a Liverpool game with him once in the Champions League. Oddly, in a football studio, and very nice chap actually. He was actually very, very open to having a big chat about football. But anyway, Gaël Clichy, Stefan Savic, Aguero, Samir Nasri, and Owen Hargreaves. So Manchester City at the time, of course, unlimited money. They were inventing companies so that they could buy all these players and pretending to be bigger than they were, and just splashing the cash. And, having that against all of the rest of the competition. I mean, you could tell why Fergie retired just a season or two later, because it's just unfair. They could spend a lot of money on players like Clichy and Savage, and if it didn't quite work, it doesn't matter. Liverpool that summer of 2011, you could see the FSG imprints are all over it. Jordan Henderson from Sunderland, Charlie Adam from Blackpool, Stuart Downing from Aston Villa, Donny, remember him, the reserve keeper from Roma, Jose Enrique from Newcastle United, Sebastian Coates from Nacional in Uruguay, and Craig Bellamy on a free. This is the first window where you start to see the
Craig Bellamy's second time coming to Liverpool.
After being a kid, or?
No.
Yeah.
He played for us before that.
Okay.
He had 2 spells.
Okay, right, okay. So yeah, but it was, it strikes me as being, Henderson obviously worked out, but let's start with him. I mean, he's first on the list there. Jordan Henderson as an FSG signing. Oh, by the way, if you're watching on YouTube live, I haven't actually got it open. I'm going to open it up on my phone so I can see if we've got any comments in, or if anyone's even watching on YouTube. I don't know. If you're listening to the audio feed, please check out Kop On podcast now on YouTube, because I've uploaded, and I will upload automatically, all of the audio podcasts onto YouTube, as well as you'll get these live videos as well. So if you feel like doing that. But yeah, Jordan Henderson, remember in the early years how he turned it around. Everybody loves a redemption story, as they say. And yeah, Henderson was definitely one of those, because he wasn't rated, and then he was. Where do you stand on him, Jordan, regardless of whether he's tarnished his reputation or not?
Right, the chat on the first two until Steven Gerrard left. Right, okay. The chat I used to be hearing, and along with another friend of mine, about Jordan Henderson was he isn't any good. And I used to be saying to these guys, put him in his proper position, because he kept playing him over on the right-hand side, which definitely wasn't his position, and it didn't look great. But once he came back into the middle, he was a bit better. He improved a lot when he went back into the middle. It's just, he was a young player, and he was kind of, was a bit of a rabbit caught in the headlights at the start. Maybe if he had been playing in his proper position all along, it might have improved, but he wasn't getting Steven Gerrard out of that team at the time. So until Stevie G left, he wasn't getting in the middle of the field unless somebody was injured. And he wasn't great early on out wide, but when he moved into the middle, he did improve. So,
what would you give? I mean, as a transfer, he cost a lot of money. Ended up being
14 million.
Yeah, around about then, it was a lot at the time. Yeah. Would you say? I mean, surely it's a roaring success ultimately. I mean, it was first deemed as a failure, but ultimately
well, it took him a while. But once Jurgen Klopp came in and gave him a bit more like authority, basically, and gave him the armband, roaring success.
Yeah, I mean, okay. What did you like about his game? Because for me, I always look at the stats, and they do tell you something, and they do omit a lot about Jordan Henderson's game as well. So you can't just judge him on stats. But what the stats do is they dispel a big myth about his game, that he was some kind of like midfield tough tackler, box to box player. He wasn't at all. He was absolutely brilliant at progressive passes. So passes that go 10 meters or 10 yards or more. And he would do this. I mean, that's my memory of him is just, him receiving the ball. I have two main memories of Jordan Henderson. Him receiving the ball and often first time, with the inside or the outside of his right boot. He would play these progressive passes that were really, really, really effective for the team, getting us moving up the pitch, that link between defence and attack. He was brilliant at that. Also, his stamina, his running, and that's the other thing. It's like, okay, statistically, he didn't make many tackles at all. He was lightweight in terms of duels. He lost all the duels, but the running and the covering he did, especially to cover Trent, when in the early years Trent was bombing up and down the wing and chalk on the boots kind of thing, and being in the right wing position when we lose the ball. Henderson deserves a hell of a lot of credit just to block the passing lane so that the other teams would have to, stop, check back, and that would.
Did a lot of unsung work.
Mm.
And people don't see that, particularly on the telly. They don't see it because it's just the wider angles. If you're at a game, you get to see those a little bit clearer. But a lot of people just kind of, it's either black or white with some players. You know what I mean? It's just he is or he isn't, and for some he wasn't. But I think he worked really hard. He became a good leader. His passing was decent. But I do wish he would have cut out that kind of just aimless kind of flick pass into the box.
Oh yes. He used to do the wafted chip. That's my least favourite pass in all of football. The wafted chip.
Yeah.
I don't know. You get out the sand wedge and you just waft it over the defender into the keeper's arms. Pick the ball on the ground, Sonny. Be patient. But
he became a leader for us. So in the end, it worked out very well. He did really well for us. So no complaints.
Absolutely. And other people from the list. Charlie Adams, Stuart Downing, Donny, Jose Enrique, Sebastian Coates, or Craig Bellamy. We've spoken a little bit about Bellamy already, but from the others from that list, would you? Yeah, it was brilliant. You could talk about any of them, including Bellamy, if you want.
Yeah, it's a good job we didn't buy Charlie Adams by the pound. Is all I can say. Yeah. Oh God. Stuart Downing was man of the match in a League Cup final. That League Cup final, 2013.
Yeah, he was frustrating though, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was. He certainly was. Sebastian Coates, or Coates, as his father went by, from Scotland. Ralph Coates played for Spurs.
Okay.
He scored that brilliant goal against QPR the night, the scissors kick, and we still lost the game. We shouldn't have lost. I think the less said about him, the better. He went to Sporting Lisbon, I think, after that. Always liked Craig Bellamy as a player, I have to say. I was at his first debut. That would have been about 2008, I think. Or no, it was Dirk Coutts first. Dirk Coutts scored his first goal at the Anfield Road end. And I tell you who else scored that day, because Bellamy hit the post from about 2 yards out with no goalkeeper. Bounced off the post and Mark Gonzalez stuck it in the goal.
Oh, wow.
We won 3-0 against Spurs. Dirk Coutts scored the second and John Anarisa scored a thunderbolt in the third. Thanks, and that was Craig Bellamy played that day. That was his first spell at Liverpool. Didn't work out really well. But he came back and he did really well that year, or whatever year, a couple of years he was with us then. He was brilliant. This is when he came back and he tortured Michael Richards in the semi-final second leg at Anfield, and then the Barcelona game. Remember when he went to attack John Arisa with the driver?
Oh, was that? That was under. Yeah. That was before that though. That was under Benitez, wasn't it? That was his first spell.
Oh, well, that must have been the first spell then. But but he was. Craig Bellamy always came across as a very honest type of guy to me. He's
psychopath, but an honest one.
Yeah, but he's a bit nuts. But I mean, at least you're going to get honesty out. Like he said, he wanted John Arisa to take part in a team building exercise or something like that, and then he wouldn't. So he went after him with a golf club, as you do.
I mean, to be fair, I've never attacked anyone with a golf club, and I don't think I ever will. I hope I don't. But that kind of dedication to the cause is commendable in a sense.
I have to say, I did like Craig Bellamy a lot.
I'd love to have an interview with Craig Bellamy. Yeah. Just, I reckon he'd be fascinating to talk to. Did you see? Because now he's the manager of Wales, and did you see the interview, the pre-match press conference when Wales played Belgium recently? Because I'm a Wales fan, sort of a little bit. I hate international football, but I am half Welsh and half Maltese. So by default, Wales and Malta are my national teams, right? And so I occasionally tune into whatever. But somebody asked him, because Wales had gone 10 games undefeated, which for Wales is amazing. And somebody asked him what were his thoughts on going 10 games undefeated. And he gave a really philosophical answer. He was like, well, life is short and you have to make the most of it. And he gave this really long sort of existential, stoic philosophy answer to that question, which is a bit bananas, but I like that. I bring on stoicism. And
I like Craig. I like Craig a lot.
So going back to that season, 11-12, it was won by Manchester City. And just to quickly compare the two squads, Man City, they had Joe Hart in goal, They had a list of defenders that included Micah Richards, Vincent Kompany, Zabaleta, Jolien Lescott, Alexander Kolarov, Stefan Savic, Gael Clichy, Kolo Touré. Their midfielders included James Milner, of course, Adam Johnson.
They said about him the better.
Exactly. Gareth Barry, Samir Nasri, Owen Hargreaves, David Silva. What a player. Wow. Nigel de Jong, Yaya Toure, Denis Suarez. And their forwards included Edin Dzeko, Sergio Aguero, Carlos Tevez, and of course Mario Balotelli, Liverpool legend.
Dzeko was very underrated. Dzeko was a really good player.
Absolutely, he had everything, didn't he? Pace, power, height. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. He was very good. So if you compare that to Liverpool in the same year, it goes to show. I mean, just to illustrate how far we had to come to catch up a team like Manchester City at that time. We had Pepe Reina, the aging old Pepe Reina, who was tarnishing his previous brilliant work by making a lot of mistakes. But we had Pepe Reina, and then in defence we had Glenn Johnson, Enrique, Daniel Agger, the injured guy, Aurelio, the injured guy, Coates, Carragher, Martin Kelly, Connor Cody, Martin Skirtle, John Flanagan, less said about him the better, Andre Wisdom, Jack Robinson, João Carlos, and now we're moving into midfield. We had João Carlos Teixeira, Steven Gerrard, Maxi Rodriguez.
Lord Maxi, he was a great player.
Yeah, I mean, you know, the old thing, imagine if he'd had pace, he would have been unbelievable.
Oh, he scored a brilliant hat-trick against Fulham and had an absolutely brilliant song.
What was it? I can't remember.
Maxi Rodriguez goes down the wing for me. Heartbeat.
Okay, yes. Yeah. Okay, yes. That would be a great one. Excellent stuff. So Maxi Rodriguez, Henderson, Downing, Jay Spearing, of course, still there. Still with the club. Lucas Leiva, Charlie Adams, Sousa, John Joe Shelby, Luis Suarez, Andy Carroll, Dirk Kuyt, Raheem Sterling, and Craig Bellamy. So, blimey, what a hodgepodge of misfits compared to Man City, who had quality all over the park. It's amazing. Beat
them in the semi-finals, though.
Well, exactly, and this is Liverpool, isn't it? The big picture of John Henry with a cigar on our screen now, because this guy, if you think about it, how far back we were when they took over. And that's just a couple of seasons where we're getting some quality in. Yes, there've been some misses, Stuart Downing, Andy Carroll, but some outrageous hits, really,
mostly from Luis Suarez.
Pardon?
I said you said outrageous hits, mostly from Luis Suarez.
Exactly. Excuse me, sorry. It's late in the day. I'm going to miss some of your quips. Excuse me. The 12-13 season was the last season that Manchester United won the league 12 years ago. The 12-13 season. And in the summer before Fergie's last year, they signed Shinji Kagawa, who was an excellent player, utility player from Borussia Dortmund. Nick Powell, I don't know who that is. I guess it's a reserve keeper. I remember. Alexander Butner, who was a big flop. Angelo Enriquez from Universidad de Chile, no idea who he is, and Robin van Persie, of course, from Arsenal. That rat turned his back on Arsenal to join his big rivals, and he fired them to the league win, papering over the cracks. That wasn't a very good transfer window apart from Van Persie, was it? Because Kagawa was good, he was a good player, but they needed more star quality.
It's a bit like Takumi Minamino and say Poborski or someone like that, or Vladimir Smicer even. The Premier League was just a little bit too quick, and they just couldn't kind of adjust to staying in the team all the time. Oh, he was a good player. I remember him playing with Dortmund, and he was a fine player.
Yeah, I mean, I think he was good. Yeah, he was sort of an all rounder, more of a bit more solid than tacky, wasn't he? But Liverpool signings,
a bit more solid maybe, but the same type of player.
Well, Liverpool got rid of Kenny that summer and brought in Brendan Rodgers, and Brendan's all over the two main signings for Liverpool. We signed loads of players, but the two biggest signings that summer, Fabio Borini with his dagger celebration.
I think Brendan Rodgers had him at Chelsea.
He did. That's exactly what happened. Yeah, he had him at Chelsea. He was a brilliant kid. He had an injury.
Yeah,
and then but Brendan signed him anyway.
And the Welsh Javi.
Exactly. Joe Allen was the other one. from Swansea City. I mean, imagine signing and calling him the Welsh Xavi. It's just ridiculous. We also signed Usama Asaidi, Nuri Shaheen.
Oh, great player. Just didn't work out for us. Nuri Shaheen was a great player.
Yeah. Samed Yesil from Bayer Leverkusen, who was very promising until I think he broke his leg.
Yeah.
Was it a broken leg, as I remember?
Yeah. German of Turkish origin.
Yeah, a brilliant player. So
scored a lot of goals in the reserves.
Exactly. Danny Pacheco, Adam Morgan, Vitor Flora. I don't remember him ever playing for Liverpool. Vitor Flora from Botafogo. Good Lord. So that was in the summer of that year, but obviously that didn't work out. But then in the winter, in January, stepped forward the transfer committee by signing Daniel Sturridge and Felipe Coutinho. I remember when Coutinho came in, I remember looking at YouTube or whatever it was back then and thinking, oh, he looks good. Yeah. And then seeing him playing for Liverpool and going, wow.
Yeah, unbelievable. He was an incredible player. Exactly what I like to watch. If people, I heard Wirtz being compared to him recently. Now, I did say Wirtz compared to Peter Beardsley as well, but Coutinho in his early days was he could just tear through people. If we had a little bit more all-rounded team and a little bit more successful team around him, we could have done anything. He was unbelievable.
I mean, what did you like about him? I mean, remember the free kick goal against Arsenal on the opening day of the season?
Yeah. Surely he's not going to shoot from there.
That's right.
Oh, he did. Top corner. Yeah. He scored a brilliant goal against Stoke. We were 1-0 down against Stoke, and he scored a brilliant goal for an equaliser. And then Bobby scored about 2 minutes later. A kind of a half volley on the drop over the top of the goalkeeper, looped it over the top of the goalkeeper. Mm-hmm. He was a great player. He just had the kind of the goal he scored against United in the Europa League will kind of illustrate it perfectly. You just don't let him get away. He got away from the fullback, and the keeper was just coming out. He just flicked it over the top of him. Because De Gea was in the goal, and De Gea was at the kind of the height of his powers at the time. Amazing. And he hadn't the hope. He just flicked it over the top of him.
You're absolutely right. So we signed him from Inter Milan, 8.5 million, the 30th of January 2013. So he made his debut on the 11th of February 2013. And he got his debut goal six days later. His first goal for Liverpool, I should say. It wasn't on his debut, but his first goal in his second match. He had 201 games for Liverpool, 54 goals, 43 assists. Basically, a goal involvement every 2 matches, which is incredible from midfield. And yeah, I think it's he was the 5th Brazilian to sign for us. And he was just, he was a leading light. He was someone that we all loved, absolutely adored him. And then he left under such a cloud, failing back injuries.
It was really sad. It was really sad the way he left. I felt really sorry for him in the end, but I think he was badly advised. You know what I mean? A lot of these players, he might have been one of the kind of the first to start using excuses and not play and stuff like that. It was not nice. It turned out well for us in the long run, but it was not nice the way he left. Oh, he was a brilliant player.
That season he played 20 games. I will never forget 20 games for Liverpool. The season that he left in the winter, right? In January that season, and it was under Jurgen Klopp, of course, and we had the front 4 of Coutinho, Mane, Firmino and Salah, and he had scored 12 goals and set up 8 in 20 matches. He had 20 goal involvements in 20 matches. He was on fire, and his link up with Mo is something that I think Florian Wirtz or Wirtz, it depends which German you ask. Florian Wirtz pronounces it Wirtz, so I'm going to go with that. But anyway, Florian Wirtz might have the same understanding that we haven't had since Coutinho, which is when Mo Salah, who still to this day, he's done it throughout his career, plays off the shoulder of the last defender with such intelligence that when the defender's turned, Mo's behind him so that the defender can't see him. And he's always there in case a creative player plays the sort of, the diagonal pass that is very hard to see, usually. Only the most creative players can see this pass. But Mo Salah is there for it. Coutinho used to do it all the time, and I think Wirtz...
Just another one as well. Just when you're finished watching Kop On, Go watch
listening.
Liverpool. Yeah. Go watch Liverpool. The 87, 88 season, and watch Peter Beardsley, John Barnes, Ray Houghton and John Aldridge, and it is absolutely frightening, especially the 5-0 against Nottingham Forest. Just watch the way they just absolutely just pick Forest to pieces. Like, John Barnes was close to being the best player in the world at the time. Like, there was some outstanding players there at the time, but John Barnes, his first 2.5 seasons with Liverpool before the Achilles snap, was just, he was untouchable in our league. He was untouchable. It's just you had a lot of good players playing in Italy as well. You had Hullet, Van Basten, Rijkaard, Maradona and all that in Italy. But John Barnes that season, and Peter Beardsley, who I have said Wirtz reminds me of, just kind of pulling strings as well. John Barnes, rightly so, was kind of the poster boy for this team. But Beardsley was just an incredible player. He really was. And then John Aldridge would sit on the shoulder. That's where I think he scored in the first 10 games he played that season, I think. And then Ray Houghton, he scores the first goal in that game against Nottingham Forest. You watch Ray Houghton making the late run into the box, a la Terry McDermott, just come shooting into the box out of absolutely nowhere, through the gap between the two centre halves, and nobody's picking it because they can't.
Absolutely unbelievable. I loved Ray Houghton even as a kid, and John Barnes absolutely adored him. He said he's one of the best players. Him and Ronnie Whelan, some of the best players we had at Liverpool in Barnes' time. But let's move forward a little bit to this winter window of 2013, where we brought in Coutinho and we did bring in Daniel Sturridge, and I'd love to talk about Sturridge for a while. I brought up a photo of him with his iconic wave celebration that I tried to copy. Didn't do very well, never did it in public, don't think I ever will. But I just don't have his what would you call it? His mojo, his style, his charisma. And he was one of the best players, most underrated players, because he's for me, he's up there with the best strikers that we've had, because when he was, unfortunate injuries, of course, maybe he only ever wanted to play when he was fit, which was only about 20 games a season. He scored some wonderful goals. The chip against West Bromwich Albion from outside the box is a memorable one. Of course, the brilliant one in the cup final that we lost to Sevilla. The Europa
goal against Chelsea into the top corner to get a 1-1 draw.
Yes, of course.
It's a great goal. Third game of the season, I think.
And he's such a likeable guy as well. I mean,
very good pundit, actually.
Very good pundit. I would love to interview him as well. And he just had this style and swagger, and it's one of those ones where, again, you saw him on the team sheet playing with Suarez, and it was. I remember when we signed him, he'd been on loan from Chelsea at Bolton, and he got 8 goals in 12 games, I think, for Bolton by the time we'd signed him, and he was just electric. And I used to watch Bolton sometimes. I had a lot more time back then, and he was just wonderful to watch, and again, I was so excited when we signed him. And
I remember him scoring one day against Manchester United after about 3 minutes. I think it ended up being the winning goal in the game, and he was just. They tried to catch him. Somebody grabbed his shirt and he pulled away from him and ran over to the sideline. I remember him. I thought he was a great player. The injuries really took a toll on him, because he lost a couple of yards of pace. And the way he played, you couldn't afford to lose that. Brilliant player.
Absolutely. So he made his debut on the 6th of January 2013. He scored on his debut, and he played
Mansfield in the FA Cup.
Okay, good memory, man. And his last appearance was 6 years later. So in on the 7th of May 2019.
Actually, just one goal we left out there was a very, very important goal. He scored the first goal in the Champions League against PSG when we beat them 3-2 with Bobby's late goal when he covered the eye. He scored the first goal with a header that night. It was the only Champions League goal he scored, I think.
Brilliant. And I was teaching at PSG at the time, and they were all worried about him. They called him the numéro 15, the number 15, and they had tons of respect. They knew all about Sturridge. So, I mean, he managed 160 games only in 6 years, so it's not even 30 a season in all competitions. But with 67 goals and 20 assists, he will be remembered fondly despite injuries. Absolutely brilliant. I'm so delighted he got that Champions League glory as well.
Brilliant.
Because he
was well deserved. He was great.
Absolutely. We'll just do one more season if that's okay, and then we'll call it quits for part one. The 13-14 season was won by Manchester City, and the summer of 2013 going into the 2013-14 season, which of course they pipped us to the league. Again, it shows their financial might and the wages they were willing to pay just to blow everybody out of the water to sign Jesus Navas from Sevilla, Fernandinho, Alvaro Negredo, who was hot property from Sevilla.
He was a rifle, wasn't he? They used to call him the rifle.
Okay, yeah, I
think so. Yeah, big guy in Spain.
Shoot blanks in the Premier League, though. Yeah, he was.
Stefan Jovetic scored 2 goals for Fiorentina against us one game,
and that's why they signed him.
Yeah, exactly.
They signed Jovetic from Fiorentina.
And Martin Di Michaelis is a Belgian centre back with a ponytail.
Wasn't he Argentinian? No, he was Belgian.
I thought he was Belgian.
Probably right. Yeah, I'll have to Google it and check. But yeah, okay.
I'll have a look.
But yeah, Liverpool signings that season: Kolo Touré from Man City, Luis Alberto, Iago Aspas, Simon Mignolet, Thiago Ilori, Mamadou Sakho, and Ali Sissoko. Not the best window, if you think about it. Like, if we'd, just got one of those signings better. I don't know who it was, if it was Brendan Rodgers or what, who wanted to sign Mignolet.
You were right. Martin Di Michaelis was Argentinian.
Right. Okay. Thank you for looking it up. But yeah, looking at those signings, Kolo Touré, Luis Alberto, Iago Aspas, Mignolet, Ilori, Sakho, and Sissoko. Sakho was impressive when he came in, but he was very, very inconsistent.
Yeah. Simon Mignolet saved the penalty on his debut.
Yes, and I was happy when we signed him. But
first game of the season against Stoke, we won 1-0. I think Sturridge scored.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he saved the penalty very late on.
Yeah, Suarez was banned, of course, having bitten Ivanovic. So we had the first 6 games with just without him, and we kept getting 1-0. And I was very impressed. I was very happy that we signed Sunderland, because I used to watch sort of match of the day. Didn't watch many Sunderland games, but Mignolet would always pull off these good saves for Sunderland. But it was just one of those things that he was the goalkeeper who taught me that even for goalkeepers, it's important what system your team plays, because he couldn't pass. The amount of times he kicked the ball straight out into touch, and ultimately his reaction speed wasn't actually very good. He just faced a lot of shots at Sunderland, and so some of them he would save and look great saving them. But in the same way that Pickford is not a great goalkeeper, he's better than Mignolet, but he's not a great goalkeeper.
Really?
He was just, I think so. I think he's better than Mignolet, but just there's not much in it. But he's sort of like a 4 out of 10, and Mignolet's a 3 out of 10. Sorry. And I just think if between them, Rodgers and the transfer committee, they'd got the goalkeeper right, that we would have won the league that season. If they instead of signing, I don't know, Luis Alberto, even Kolo Touré, although he was good, he was very good for team spirit and coaching players. So I like the signing of Touré. If we'd just got Sakho a little bit better, Ali Sissoko we signed on loan from Valencia. And
a great assist for Luis Suarez against Aston Villa. Oh no, it wasn't. It was West Brom. It was the header from outside the box.
Oh yes, okay. Yeah,
he had the assist for that.
Yeah, I think there was that viral video of him. It was a bit cruel, really, but it was quite funny at the same time.
Yeah.
Both Ali Sissoko, what he did, his highlights of the 13-14 season. But
Iago Aspas, well, we all remember that corner.
And I feel sorry for him, because I think he was a good player, and he just wouldn't get a game, because of Luis Suarez. But his movement was intelligent. I thought it was a
brilliant in Spain, and I'm not sure he was still playing up to the end of this season. I mean, he might be retired now, but he was absolutely unbelievable for Celta Vigo.
Yeah, totally. He was a very good player, very technical, very good movement, very clever player. But but I think in the winter of that season, we didn't sign anyone in the January of 13-14 season. Maybe that was a problem as well, because it was so close that season. And of course, it took us a long time to win it. But I don't know. Luis Alberto turned into a good player as well in the end.
Yes, he did. Atletico Madrid, Napoli, very good player.
But Sakho, I want to talk about Sakho. What are your thoughts on him? Mamadou Sakho
came in like with a decent reputation of being a good player, but he just. I think he broke Klopp's boundaries. I think that was the problem. He was just. I remember him on a pre-season tour, and I think they were doing an interview in Alcatraz or something like that, and he came in behind Klopp and started making faces or making comments or something like that, and he never played again. Just listen, he'll be remembered for that. He scored one of the goals against Borussia Dortmund the night of that comeback. I think he scored the equaliser before Lovren scored the winner, as far as I can remember. I think he scored the third goal that night, a header from about.
You're right. Yeah.
A header from 2 inches.
It was a corner, yeah. Was it a header or was it
a header from about 2 inches?
Okay, right. Okay.
No, a header from about 2 inches, I remember as well. And we went up several levels when we had him and Lovren centre back, and you just couldn't keep a clean sheet. You know what I mean? And just he might have been all right in France, but he's just a bit too wild. And then having to play with Lovren as well, it just wasn't going to work.
Yeah. I mean, we'll come on to that as we go, but I think that's very fair. It's just consistency. He had all the things there, but maybe not the mentality. But I think that was it was a big move from Klopp when he first came in to get rid of Sakho, wasn't it? Because he was like one of the most established, probably the most established defender, perhaps in the team at the time. And Klopp just wasn't having it. He wasn't having his sense of humour. He wasn't having his lateness, especially. And he was shipped off, and I think that said something to the rest of the squad as well.
It definitely did. And I think what Slot did with Jarell Quansah this season. I'm not saying Jarell Quansah is kind of late or inconsistent, but he can be a little bit inconsistent. And when he made a mistake, the head could kind of stay down for a bit too long, if you know what I mean. And I think that's what Slot didn't like. When he made a mistake, he didn't recover from it quick enough.
Yeah. Absolutely. So yeah, those days. Mignolet in goal. Glenn Johnson was still there, of course. Jose Enrique, Touré, Aga, Sakho, Sissoko, Connor Cody, Martin Kelly, Martin Skirtle, John Flanagan, and Brad Smith were our defenders. And then Luis Alberto, Gerrard, Coutinho, Henderson, Lucas, Joe Allen, Jordan Rossiter, remember him? Cameron Brannigan and João Carlos Teixeira.
Cameron Brannigan is still playing well with Oxford.
Oh, great. Okay.
Yeah, captain there, I think now.
And then our forwards, of course, were Suarez, Aspas, Asaidi, Sturridge, and Sterling. So near, and yet so far.
Yeah.
But it all worked out at the end. Thank you very much. Thank you for watching, everybody. Thank you for listening. If you're on YouTube right now, please like, comment, subscribe, all those things that help the algorithm, if you can. But it's been really good fun to take us through to 13-14, to remember some of these signings. Some big hits, some unfortunate misses. And that brings us to, I don't know, the end of the show, but it brings up, I don't know. Think about this season, right? What's happening now with Liverpool, Nigel, before we actually chip off? Viet, Kerkez, Frimpong. It seems like a great window so far, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. Mamardashvili. Who's the other one? There's one more. Well, that young goalkeeper, Pesci.
Well, two young goalkeepers. Freddie Woodman as well.
Oh, yeah, Freddie Woodman as well. Yeah, okay. No, it seems like a very good window, and I don't think we're finished yet. It just there's a couple of people out then as well. Quivin Kelleher deserves to play as a starter for a big club, for a good club, and he's at one now in Brentford. I'm not going to mention the other guy that went to Spain, but and then who else went? Somebody else went as well. Oh, Jarell Quansah looks like he's going to ink the move tomorrow. I'm trying to think now, is there anybody else? Anybody else gone? But there will be. I'd say there will be a few more. Well done to Harvey Elliott last night as well, by the way, and Jarell Quansah. And
has your opinion changed on Harvey Elliott about, do you want him out or in because of his brilliant performances?
I can't. I just can't. He done really well last night, and he does really well for Liverpool when he comes on. But long term, I just can't. He just hasn't got the pace. He just hasn't got the pace to fit into a system where he can go to be able to cover. If a fullback goes pushing forward, he just hasn't got the pace to cover in a fullback. I like the lad. He's got a brilliant attitude. He's been fantastic for us, but I'm afraid I can't. I just can't. I like the lad, brilliant player, but just the lack of pace, I can't do it.
I totally agree. I want him to go out on loan or have a buyback clause, because I think he could develop into a truly special talent, but he needs consistency. He needs regular games.
To do what you're talking about there, he'll have to play as a number 10 in the Wirtz position, where he doesn't have to be affected by running around. He can stay in a position, isolate a defender in space, and play the ball into a gap, which he's brilliant at. But at the moment, we've made the biggest signing in our club's history by a guy who's is he slightly younger or slightly older than Harvey Wirtz?
I think he's about the same age. They're both 22, aren't they?
Yeah,
But,
about the same age. Yeah, about the same age. And it's just, I'm sorry, but I'd love to see him staying, but there just isn't room.
Yeah. I mean, the noises coming out of Germany, as they say, the noises coming out of Germany is that Wirtz is he's the best player Leverkusen's ever had. He's the best player this century. I really hope that's true.
So do I.
It's very exciting. Harvey Elliott's birthday is April the 4th, 2003. So he's only just 22 and 86 days. And Florian Wirtz, it's May the 3rd. So there you go. Just 1 month younger. Florian Wirtz is 1 month younger than Harvey. But yeah, 10 goals and 16 goals and 13 assists between the Bundesliga and Champions League for Florian Wirtz. 16 goals and 13 assists compared to 4 goals and 2 assists for Harvey in far fewer minutes, of course. But it might tell you something. Anyway, thank you very much. Thanks for watching, everybody. Thanks for listening. Nigel, thank you for being a great guest as ever.
Yeah, really enjoyed it.
Great. So whoever you are, wherever you are, stay safe, stay hydrated in this heat wave. If you're in the Northern Hemisphere, in Western Europe, we've got a big heat wave. And take care. We'll see you soon. You'll never walk alone. Thank you.